This week in Beyond the Headlines, steps underway to preserve Virgin Islands history.
Virgin Islands history will also be taught beginning in September to help all of our students understand the history and expansion of our country, as well as to help them connect with the legacy of the many great Virgin Islanders that have contributed to the progress of our islands.
Throughout the years, several efforts have gone forward in the hopes of preserving Virgin Islands history in the BVI. Whether on the part of some small group or an individual effort, various aspects of Virgin Islands history have been brought to the forefront, and the territory's culture has been retold and relived in attempts to ensure that each generation knows what the BVI was like in earlier times. The efforts have generally received much public support, although some have questioned the level of longevity. More recently, a presentation of footage depicting the Virgin Islands in the 1940s was shown on February 1st last year at the HLSCC Auditorium. The footage, which was touted as a national treasure by then Premier Honorable Ralph T. O'Neill, was donated to the territory by Sir David Green, the son of Thomas Green, the original videographer. Thomas Green served as the Virgin Islands Supervisor of Education from 1943 to 1950 and used his personal camera to film Virgin Islands people, activities and natural scenery from 1947 to 1949.
Gloria Turnbull teaching children outside, teaching a lesson in geography. And if you can see, the pointer was locally produced. Now we're up in the hills, looking towards Peter Island and Norman Island. There's Wickhamsky, the long thing there. And the Wickhamsky 1 and 2 reclamations are in the way of a lot of this coastline now, and the Port Purcell reclamations, it's unrecognizable. And now we're heading up into the hills. Okay, that's Road Town again in the distance. The Botanic Gardens, you can see the coconut trees around there. And we come to a picnic. It's believed that this picnic was up in the hills at Mayors. Notice the thrash house, as we call it. That's supposed to be the late Glennie Fonseca, for those of you who know him. And that's a thrash house. And quickly to the launching of the Catherine, which we are told belonged to the late Leopold Smith of Road Town. This is the food part, very important, essential for any boat launching. A lot of food.
Yet another one of the more recent attempts to revisit early Virgin Islands history came on May 18th of last year, as the Department of Culture hosted a presentation entitled Our History, Our Memories at the UP Cineplex in commemoration of International Museum Day. The event included stories of the BVI's history by several of the territory's stalwarts, along with demonstrations on how life was years ago.
When I went to look in the Caribbean dictionary, right, they used the word greater as a verb. They didn't use it as a noun at all. And I noticed a greater. They said greater. They used a greater to great. So it has to use a greater as a noun, right? So they had a greater and they were grating. So the greater had the scale, and according to how skilled you were, your hand was going fast, up and down, and you could demolish a cassava in 3-4 strokes. If you ain't had no much skill, you better be very careful before you grate off your knuckles them, right? So therefore, and with coordinated hand and mouth action, they were reducing them items in that dishpan to finely grated meal, right? And they would sit there and their mouth were going, they were ponging the latest melee because who daughter had do this and where this one went and who went where. I ain't going into the melee, them that might have be sharing like Mr. Bully, Tiffin, the woman, Johnny Cake and all of them things there, right? So they were ponging the latest melee and they were grating, right? Now, in modern times, right, the grater has been replaced by food processors, blenders, and juicers. But it Just say that when you get a sugar cake, right, and it don't taste right, I hear people asking, that's a local make point tart, and that's one out of can. So when you get something and it don't taste just right, right, and you want to know why it is gone wrong, right, then people start to ask the question and you go back and somebody say, you know, it's a grater you need. So we go back and we get ourselves a grater, whether we make one or we buy one of them modern one from the store, and we sit down there and we grate or stuff them. And some of us, from past experience, know not to go too close to the end of the thing because you, and some of us learn from experience, right? If you go too close, exactly what's going to happen, right? And we get that grater, that essential household item. I think even from then to now, it's still an essential household item.
You're supposed to guess what this is and for what it was used.
Yeah. Don't forget it.
You can't see it?
Let me see.
You see what I mean? Brenda,
See this.
the mystery is too mysterious. People can't see the mystery. Oh, goodness me, there are people up there? Well, hallelujah. It is what? It is a shell, but it is something else. Over here says, well, I think this person is warm. Brenda, careful child there. This person is warm. She is telling me it is a saucer. How you think?
You think she got a who?
I think she got it, you know. Yes. We used to eat from that stuff, you know. You see how beautiful it is? That is the thing. We were able to eat from, oh, man. We could handle these things.
But there have been several other individual efforts as well, including one fisherman who continues to demonstrate and teach one of the territory's oldest traditions, making the fish pot for catching fish. Despite all the efforts to preserve VI history, however, many believe that this history is being lost, as the Department of Culture continues to spearhead its recently launched search for a national dress and song. Ad hoc committee member for the competition, Sheila Brathwaite, said on a recent episode of JTV's live talk show, Spotlight, that one of the reasons for the national attire was to help young people know their own history, so they would not have to borrow someone else's identity.
I think it would help them to realize who they are, help them to realize what their history is, what their culture is, and help them to be able to promote their own identity so that they don't have to be using the identity of other persons. I've seen where when there's a culture week, for instance, BV Islanders dress in quote-unquote cultural outfits. But at the same time, there are some who dress according to the country that their parents come from. Mm-hmm. And we want all BV Islanders, all nationals, to dress in what is cultural for the BVI. And it has to go back to our history, who we were, and we want to keep that history alive. We need to keep it alive.
The call for preserving the territory's history is by no means new, however, as some of the earliest pioneers of BVI history and culture have spoken out on the importance of ensuring the people, places, and events that have shaped Virgin Islands history remain at the forefront of the minds of those who live and pass through these shores. One such person was the late Hamilton Lavisi Stout, who is commemorated each year on his birthday on March 5th. The life and accomplishments of the territory's first chief minister continue to be reflected upon annually, which he would have wanted, as he was one who made the call for BVI history and historians to be remembered. Paying tribute to the late H.L. Stout during this year's ceremony was Glenroy Forbes, who encouraged the gathering to continue speaking of the accomplishments of not only H.L. Stout, but all the territory's national heroes as well.
Much praise and gratitude must be afforded those our leaders and decision makers who saw it fit and made it possible for us to celebrate this, one of our national heroes, with such fanfare. As we go about celebrating this public holiday, given in Mr. Stout's honor, those of us who are older need to pledge to redouble our efforts in telling and retelling the story, not only of the Honorable H.L. Stout's contributions, but also of those great men and women that went before him, as well as those who worked with him in building the dream that we are now living here in the British Virgin Islands.
Recently, an announcement was made that would put a smile on the faces of all those who continue to champion the cause of preserving the territory's history and culture. Giving his first Education Week address, Minister for Education and Culture, Honorable Myron Walwyn, revealed that come September of this year, Virgin Islands history will be taught in the territory schools, a move that will ensure that more young people know how the BVI, which they now enjoy, was shaped.
Beginning in September 2012, financial services and tourism will be taught in our secondary schools to help students understand the economic importance of these industries to our territory. We anticipate that this will also allow our students to identify careers and opportunities in these sectors. Virgin Islands history will also be taught beginning in September to help all of our students understand the history and expansion of our country, as well as to help them connect with the legacy of the many great Virgin Islanders that have contributed to the progress of our islands.
The Ebenezer Thomas Primary School celebrated Black History Month by looking at some of the Virgin Island icons who made significant contributions to the territory in one way or another. With Virgin Islands history being taught in the territory's schools, more and more young people will have the opportunity to learn and appreciate and understand those who went before them, paving the way for such necessities as tertiary level education, for example. But even more so, some of those pioneers who aren't always mentioned, such as Obed McField Malone, first principal of the Althea Scottish Primary School, Theodulf Faulkner of Anegada, who led the Great March of 1949 that led to the restoration of the Legislative Council, Geraldine Norman, Dr. Pearl Valak, and many others, past and present, will be remembered, and the territory students will be able to keep VI history alive for generations to come. This is Walter Barrett, Beyond the Headlines.